Florida State adds a transfer portal quarterback. So what does that mean for the Noles depth chart at the quarterback position? And we have more transfer portal news.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn your TV into an Xbox with no console needed. Head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. Florida State adds a transfer portal quarterback from East Tennessee State University, Jalen King. He originally went to Gardner-Webb, and he is originally from Charlton County High School in Georgia. That is in Folkestone, down in the southeast part of the state, not all that far from Jacksonville. This has all the makings of a Gus Malzahn special. I will explain here in about 2 minutes. But we also have to discuss the Biscuit has left Florida State for a second time. We have some good news in the transfer portal. And how is Florida State doing against arch rivals like UF, Miami, even Georgia, Auburn, and Alabama, not only in the transfer portal with recruiting? The good news here, I'm going to give you a little spoiler. UF does not have a good recruiting class right now. They have a dumpster fire of a situation because of Billy Napier. It is wild. I have some stories to tell later on here on Locked On Seminoles. But first, again, Jalen King. Gus Malzahn has always recruited Georgia hard. A lot of the county schools, he likes the people at those programs. Charlton County fits to a T. And this is also a player in Jalen King that fits Gus's offense to a T. Very athletic. Massive kid in terms of his frame. He's 6'4", 210. He could weigh 230, no problem. And he's got a live arm. He'll make throws on the run. He'll make throws from the pocket. He can make people miss in the pocket and extend plays. And, you can absolutely believe that a quarterback draw, a quarterback counter, quarterback sweep, option, anything you can imagine, physically, Jalen King can do it. Is he raw? Absolutely. We're going to go over his passing numbers here in a second. But before I do that, I'm going to read these a second time in just a minute. But I want to ask a couple of questions, and I just want you to be cognizant of them. I want you to think about these as I go through the stats for Jalen King. All right, here we go. Number one, bringing in a very highly mobile quarterback as a backup. There's no doubt, just to be clear, Thomas Castellanos will be the quarterback this year. What about Brock Glenn? What about Kevin Sperry? This young man will be a junior, so it's the same year as Brock Glenn. And what about the situation of the starting quarterback at Florida State beyond this year? Like, are they projecting him as a developmental player? They really think he can play? I don't know the answer to that, but it's pretty interesting. And what about him possibly playing receiver? We'll come to that here in just a second as well. Jalen King is not that accurate right now. And that's being kind. This past year, he is 52.3%. But when I watch some of his film from high school, I'm like, he's making some incredible throws against his body with velocity. Like, he's got an arm. He's the kind of guy you don't want to see on the pitcher's mound if you're in a hitting slump and you come up there and there he is, 6'4", 210, throwing 95 mile an hour. He's that guy. But at the same time, we're also talking about somebody that will miss some throws, especially intermediate to deep. I looked at Pro Football Focus. He's not good. Not good at all. He only hit 50% in one of the 6 areas, like intermediate left, center intermediate, deep right, etc. 1 out of 6. He was even 50% last year. Now, I get it. He was at East Tennessee State. Probably not a ton of elite receivers there. I don't know, but that's my guess. To that point, can he be developed? Yeah, he absolutely can. Here are his numbers from last year. And again, he's a blossoming player. 2 years of eligibility, we'll see. But he was 116 at 222, 52.3%, 1,541 yards, 6.9 per attempt, 9 touchdowns, 11 picks. So I say again, why such a low percentage? I don't know how the coaching was. I don't know what he had to throw to, and I really don't know a ton about his O-line. I mean, I've got very little. I don't follow East Tennessee State, obviously. But he is a guy that's mobile. And again, this is a Gus Malzahn special. Rushing, 92 carries, 513 yards, 5.6 per tote. That's pretty impressive. 5 scores per Pro Football Focus. Here's the other part. He's not just getting 5-yard chunks. He's popping off some runs. He had 18 runs of over 10 yards. That's pretty good. I love his throwing motion. Watching his film, he's got good escapability. He can stop and start, move left and right. Good height, really good frame. He can throw it from every angle can be thrown from. Sidearm, 3/4, you name it. Stop, square up, throw over the top. Whatever the situation is, he can do it. But again, his numbers don't match all the things that I'm talking about. It is very peculiar. We'll see what happens once he gets to Tallahassee, but I'm intrigued with Jalen King. A couple other notes about him. I was talking about passing depth. Like when he throws the ball down the field, like deep shots, he only hit 30% last year, but for 546 yards. We'll see once again, like, is he a guy that's capable of being the guy at Florida State? I don't know. So I'm going to come back to these questions that I started off with a moment ago. What does this mean for Brock Glenn? Because Jalen King will be in the same class. What does that mean for Kevin Sperry? Now, he's only a freshman. Probably doesn't impact him as much, but he was probably thinking, I got a great shot to start next year, and he still might. But Jalen King is a freak athlete that's a little more experienced, a little older. He has that advantage. So we'll see. And then finally, what about Jalen? If it didn't work out at quarterback, I mean, I'm just speculating, could he play receiver? He's that good an athlete that I have to ask. Mike Norvell likes him some big receivers. Just throwing it out there. I don't think that's a terrible idea. So we'll see what happens with Jalen King, but he is a very talented quarterback. Next, Marcuston Douglas has left Florida State twice now. I hope Marcuston figures it out wherever he goes. Biscuit, he gone. But that also brings up the question, does Florida State go after another tight end? I think they need one. He was honestly perfect because you got Landon Thomas, decent-sized tight end, but he's not big like Marcuston. A blocker, somebody that is what I personally call a move tight end. I'll actually mention one of those here in a little bit on the show. But somebody else that understands what it's like to be an inline and H-back and is okay with blocking a lot. Florida State could use another. Not saying it's paramount, but the Noles could use another. It works better at Florida State for Malzahn if he uses H-backs. And Douglas could be that, and he could be that power goal line guy. I mean, he's almost offensive lineman size. He's 280, give or take. That's a big dude. Next up, this is another situation that proves the transfer portal is wild. Jalen Caldwell, offensive lineman. He's got 2 years to play. Grand Valley State. He's massive. Well, depending on which report you believe, he's 350 or he's 305. Okay, first off, the transfer portal, you never know. Division II, FCS, anything like that makes it harder. So I'm not sure on his size. I've seen 2 different ones, but I can't hardly find anything out about him. I mean, hardly anything. So we'll find out more as time goes on, but Jalen Caldwell is a big-bodied kid that might take a visit to Florida State. They've also got another young man from Vanderbilt that's going to visit next week. We've talked about that. I'll talk about him again on Monday. But they're trying to get this tells me they're trying to get at least one more offensive lineman from the portal, and I think they should. But I think that's minimal. Florida State needs 2 if I had my preference because they just don't have enough depth. It is what it is. Cornerback Caleb Brown was going to visit Florida State, no longer. He has committed to Virginia Tech. He was the corner that was at Hawaii. Here's an interesting one. I did not see this coming. North Dakota State running back, 5'11", 215, Shamar Brown. Really successful last year. 215 carries, 1,083 yards, 5 yards per tote, 14 scores. Offensive grade, 92. Like that. Rushing, 90.6. Absolutely love that too. Receiving, 64.4. Not so much, but still a 1,000-yard runner with 14 scores. Okay. And North Dakota State is pretty much about as good as it gets at that level. But why are they bringing in a running back? I'm just asking open-endedly. Is there an injury we don't know about? That's the first question I always have when there's a depth chart that looks like Florida State's. and yet they're bringing in somebody else for a visit? Is there somebody in the portal that hasn't been announced yet, like the paperwork hasn't cleared? Again, I'm just asking. Got to ask these questions because it is what it is. When we come back, we're going to talk quite a bit about some key guys that have gone to programs that Florida State fans don't care too much for, but you got to know what the competition's doing. How are you going up against them? That is next here on Locked On Seminoles. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes betting easy, whether it's picking your favorite team, diving into player props. For instance, for basketball, I always like shooting three-pointers. So anything that has to do with that total number that a player will hit from behind the arc, total points, anything that connected to it, I think that's a lot of fun. And if you don't make a bet before tip-off, there is still live betting that you can go with on FanDuel. Don't miss out. Head over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. How is the competition stacking up to Florida State? How is Florida State stacking up to the competition? Let's start with Miami. They are in a very unique situation. And I'm a little bit this way, a little bit that way with the following. I want your opinions. Comment down below on YouTube or wherever you are. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or Odyssey or whatever, give us a 5-star review, by the way. But this is interesting. If you're Miami, there should never, ever, ever, ever be a situation you're short at wide receiver. The number of receivers that come out of South Florida is insane. But Miami's short at receiver. Makes no sense. So they did go out and get Keelan Marion, a guy that's been semi-productive, elite return guy. He had 3 touchdowns so far in his career. Started at UConn, transferred to BYU. He actually had a couple of returns for scores last year for the Cougars. And he had some decent numbers as a backup, kind of like priority guy. He's starter, I believe, but like the third option. 6 foot, 195 pounds, pretty elusive. Good pickup for them. But they still, in my opinion, don't have a definitive boundary receiver. The Daniels kid they picked up from LSU would have either went to the NFL or still at LSU if he met the expectations. And they just don't have a lot of experience, period. They did get Nikar to come back. He was in the portal. JoJo Trader will be good. But who's going to be the other guys? Ray Joseph finally going to develop into something? Or are they really going to key on some other guys that they're just still trying to wait on in the portal? They're not getting Trevor Pena. He's going to Penn State. For those who don't know, he decided to become a Nittany Lion, so there's your slot. Miami's a little behind right there. That's surprising to me, and I don't get it. But it is what it is. They also got Kamal Bonner. Pretty good pickup there. I did like that. He'd started a little bit for NC State at linebacker last year as a freshman. 6'2", 215. We'll see if he can do something. Bert Auburn, kicker from Texas, ends up transferring to the Canes. That's interesting. As far as their recruiting class, O-line's doing pretty good. They got a pretty good shot at some of the top guys like Pepe out of IMG. We'll see where that goes, but they're in a pretty prosperous spot with the offensive line, and they've got 3 really good corner commits. It's about time Miami got back on track at DB, but this year I still don't think they're going to be that great in the secondary. Some of these guys might have to play early. Camden Portis, yes, the son of you-know-who, Clinton Portis. Jalen Waters, kid that was at one point committed to Florida State, and John Tavius Wyman, who they flipped from Georgia. But I go back to it again. Where are the receiver recruits? Where are the elite receiver transfer portal guys? Florida State, they planned ahead pretty well, even though they had a disastrous season last year. Coming off the year Miami did, you'd think they would be set for bear at receiver. Doesn't make any sense. Somehow Miami has not lived up to their end of the bargain there. They should have had a better plan, and that might end up biting them, especially if they have any injury bug this season. As for the Gators, this is just mind-blowing. They have 2 commitments, 2. One of which who's taking visits and just flat out, I don't know where he's going. Still could go to Florida State. That's Isaiah Williams. Really good player. He was once committed to Florida State. The only other guy they have committed is Will Griffin. He's a lifelong Gator fan. His family likes Florida. Really good quarterback, but that's low-hanging fruit in terms of how hard that was. So with that being stated, Florida recruiting right now, compared to where it should be, I'm not saying the players they have are bad because they're both good, but the two guys they have, it's just not enough. You are freaking Florida. And you have 2 commitments, and it's the end of April. What are y'all doing? I just keep thinking they're going to get somebody else to kind of like get the spark, and it's going to roll. That hasn't happened. I've heard some names, but like nobody pulls the trigger. I don't understand how that is possible for the University of Florida football program, but I digress. They did add Brendan Bett from Baylor, defensive tackle, big-bodied kid. He's redshirted 1 year, played 1 year. He will be a redshirt sophomore, 6'5", 300-ish, but he doesn't have a lot of production yet. We'll see. Gregory Smith, a kid that I thought was going to be a really good player, transferred out. He is from Sumner High School just south of Tampa. We'll see where he goes. He was playing safety. As for a couple other notes here, Georgia, they're a weird school too. What's the deal with receivers in the South? They threw for a bunch of yards last year, and they still can't get anybody. I don't know what's the deal there, but they do have some decent transfers. Walt Claire Flynn came over from UCF. He's a good offensive lineman. They got Elo Modozi, the edge rusher from Army. It's a great story. He's a really good player. They got somebody from Miami, Josh Horton, a big D tackle, hasn't played a ton. And they got a very productive Josh McCray, a running back out of Illinois, power back, 6'1", 230, 235. He fits what Kirby Smart wants to do. There is no doubt about that. When we come back, we're going to talk about Auburn and Alabama. The second, of course, is the team that Florida State opens the season with. But ironically, Auburn might be a little more interesting. I think there's going to be a mass exodus there in some capacity, if I am right. And Florida State could be in the situation to have some right pickets. That is next here on Locked on Seminoles. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. And it's not just NBA playoffs. That's a concert. That's a comedy. Going to the movie theater. It could be football, baseball, hockey, whatever it is you want to do. Plus, the all-in pricing is a great feature. How many times have you been somewhere, looked at a price tag, you go to the register, and then you get the hose? Not a good deal? Well, that's a lot of places. But with FanDuel, with Game Time, it is all-in pricing. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. The Auburn Tigers have a good start to their 2026 recruiting class, and it's a school that FSU recruits against constantly. They come down to Florida a lot. They recruit South Georgia a lot. And Florida State absolutely goes into Georgia and Alabama to recruit kids. Dexter Carter's kid, Devin Carter's even committed to Auburn, and Florida State's trying to flip him. I want to come back to that in a second. For those that didn't know, Hugh Freeze had a scare with cancer, and there was even talk about him hanging it up after this past season. Well, he's back. But it's just my opinion from someone who's been around cancer way more than he would like to because of family and friends. I highly doubt that he's here at Auburn much longer. If he does leave at the end of this season, and I'm not trying to say anything bad because they may have a really good year. It's hard to say. They got a lot of moving parts. I need to see Auburn before any definitive prediction there. But anytime a head coach leaves, there's a chance that recruits will revolt and move on to some other school. I don't know how it'll play out. If it does, the timing could be tricky because signing day is right around the time of the SEC title game, the ACC title game, all that. Just saying. There might be some kids that either sign or not. Plus, there could be young men that make their decision, sign, and then if he decides to hang it up, they transfer shortly thereafter. Florida State, in my opinion, has a chance to prosper here. It's not always the easy route you have to go. Recruiting is a marathon. It is not a sprint. So with that being said, again, Carter, he's a speedy receiver. He fits Florida State's need. They need more vertical threats. And he's the son of a legend. Yes, Dexter Carter, running back for the Noles, played for the Niners, NFL, all that bloodlines. He has been down to Florida State multiple times. The Noles are involved. So that's something to think about. And there's a few other kids in that class that could be involved with Florida State. You never know. Plus, as Auburn adds players, and they're going to have a good class. I got a good recruiting staff up there at Auburn. I think there's a really good chance that several of their kids could end up flipping. Now, if I am incorrect and Free sticks around, all this is moot. But again, he had a scare with cancer. How much longer is he going to put in the grind? Because the head coach job is never ending. You're never off the clock. Is he really going to want to do that much longer? He's got all the money he could possibly want to spend. What's left for you Freeze? They're not a national title level team, so what does that mean for him? Does he turn it over to DJ Durkin, the defensive coordinator for the Auburn Tigers? I don't know, but it's something to think about. Now moving on to Alabama and a couple of basic questions and comments up front. Do we really know what we're going to get in year 2 of Kalen DeBoer? Not really. I don't think we do at all. They don't really have a definitive answer at quarterback. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to do a whole show about quarterback play, Alabama's offense, a little bit later, probably in May. But for now, know that they got some uncertainty. And that's also kind of like their transfer portal and their recruiting. They're taking an aggressive approach in terms of going after high quality. And amen, you're Alabama. To that, I did like a couple of the kids they just got, 2 tight ends. Brody Dalton from Troy and Jack Samarco from West Virginia. Like Samarco is a guy that's, I mentioned earlier, like a move tight end. He's played H-back. He's played in the slot. He's played inline. They get a couple of guys that have experience. I think that they're going to go with a little bit more of a pro-style offense this year, which would lead itself to make me think the veteran quarterback, I forget the kid's name, but the kid from the state of Tennessee, he's a redshirt junior, is most likely going to at least start the game against Florida State. Don't think they're going to put the freshman in or the redshirts out. Like, they've got a couple more talented guys, but when you're doing a lot of shifts, pre-snap reads, and motions and changing plays, I doubt it. So I might be reading too much into this, but taking multiple tight ends, and it's something that's very common with NFL-style offenses or even aggressive spread attacks. DeBoer is known for both. This could be a scenario where you see Alabama try to line it up and knock them down, Florida State included. That could be a really interesting battle up front because Florida State's D-line is pretty good. As for another interesting pickup, they got Jaden Hobson from South Alabama at 6'5", 300 pounds. I don't know if he'll compete for playing time right away. Bama's not hurting in the trenches by any means, but they did pick him up. It's another 300-pounder. So I asked the question, did Bama want the depth, need the depth? There's a big difference in those two questions. Is there any injury concern there? You never know. Their O-line last year was pretty good, but it wasn't dominant, and it certainly did not live up to Alabama standards overall. Plus, they just lost the 12th pick in the draft. I'd say that's something to think about. As for Alabama's recruiting, solid start. Again, they're going after big fish. Their OV is through the roof. Tremendous. But they're putting all their eggs into the recruiting basket, which, again, it's Bama. You should. Kind of hard to see how that's going to go. But Alabama, I think, is going to be somebody that Florida State runs into, especially in Georgia, on the recruiting trail. We'll see how that goes, but I don't think there's anybody specific that Florida State has in mind that's committed to Bama that is necessarily a huge discussion point right now. Now, that's going to change. They're going to get some kids Florida State would like to flip, 100%. But right now, they've got a very small official commitment list, but their OBs are through the roof. We'll probably talk about Florida State getting an Alabama commitment on campus sometime in the next, month, 2 months. It's almost a lock. And by August, it is a lock. Next, where does Florida State stand? Just want to make a basic statement here. I think they're doing pretty good in the portal, but again, as I talked about, quarterback, you just brought in Jalen King. So that's over, but do you lose somebody because of it? Don't discount that. That's possible. You could lose somebody. Plus, this is the other big part of it. Can you finish off O-line? Got to get at least one more. 2 would be nice. You also probably need to add another receiver and or defensive back. Florida State is not in a bad spot on their roster, but with a new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new coaches all over the place, plus your quarterback being a transfer, it's better to be safe than sorry. Adding more players in, because you don't know what chemistry is going to work, in my opinion, is a very, very good idea. We'll see what Florida State does. And I know they're working on visits. Like I said, the kid from North Dakota State, the running back, had over 1,000 yards last year. I don't really know why you're bringing in a running back, but I don't know the health situation with all the players. And I really don't know what they're trying to do. They're going to run more 2-back. I have no clue. But that's an interesting pickup if Florida State's able to pull it off. And again, O-line, got to have it. DB, probably got to have it too. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. Please give us a big thumbs up, like, subscribe. Make sure you share this podcast and comment above all else. Where do you want to see Florida State add somebody? If it's not DB, if it's not running back, if it's not O-line, tell me what you think. If you got a comment on the quarterback situation, jump right in. Be more than happy to discuss that as well. More than happy to do so each and every day here on Locked On Seminoles. We will see you again soon.